Hey there, today I will try to facilitate your reading section in IELTS. First, manage your time properly. Time management is really very important in reading section. You should know that 3 passages do not have the same difficulty level, and in most cases the first passage is quite easy, whereas the second passage is relatively more difficult, and the third passage is the most difficult one. However, in some cases the situation can be vice versa. But again, in most cases the first passage is quite easier than the others. Therefore, you should divide your time so that you can devote less time for the first one, a little bit more time for the second one, and the most of your time should be kept for the last passage. Well, it's advised to spend 12 minutes for the first passage, approximately 15 minutes for the second passage, and leave around 20-25 minutes to the last passage. The rest of your time you will devote to transferring your answers to the answer sheet. If you have difficulties while doing 3 passages in an hour, you can change your tactics a bit. For example, you can take only one passage and spend 15 minutes on it, but you can do it only at the beginning of your preparation course because generally you should make yourself be accustomed to spend 1 hour on the reading section as a whole. Secondly, don't read the passage itself. Why? Because you will just waste your time. You will read it and probably forget. Instead, read the questions because while reading the questions, you can understand what this passage is about, catch the main points that you will need and eliminate the rest unnecessary parts. Next, define the order of doing the exercises in reading. These exercises are different, so you should organize the order of doing them. It's not necessary to do the first exercise firstly, maybe you will need to do it at the end. For example, the answers of the exercise of fill in the gaps may appear in the middle or at the end of the passage. By the way, what is the type of exercise in reading test that you are struggling more? Leave a comment below and in the next video I'll try to give you some tips regarding this exercise. Tip number 4. Understand the structure of the passage. You can do it after reading the questions. So, for example, if a passage is about any photographer's life, let's say, firstly you will understand that the passage will start from his childhood, then in the middle of the passage you will read about his young age, and lastly you will read about his elder age. This structuring can help you find the location of some questions properly. Write a brief summary. As you know, most passages are divided into several paragraphs. Sometimes, in order to facilitate doing your reading test, you can write a brief summary near each paragraph. It's like a small piece of information about what this paragraph is. And of course, this in turn can help you find the location of the answers quickly. Try to predict the definition of unfamiliar words. Reading is quite challenging for many students because the grammar in IELTS passages is advanced and C1 level of vocabulary is used. Of course, you can meet a lot of unfamiliar words in your reading test, and you will feel impatient to look them up in a dictionary. But don't do this. Instead, write these words somewhere and try to predict their definition. Only after you finish your reading, you can find their translation in the dictionary. And of course, in this case, you can compare whether you have predicted the definition of a word properly or not. Only in this case, you can make yourself accustomed to understand the meaning of unfamiliar words because during your exam, you will not be provided with any source of dictionary. Tip number 7. Read a lot. I know it sounds a little bit frustrating for some students because doing a reading test takes a lot of your time, and maybe during your IELTS preparation you have little time to read some extra articles or books in English. However, it's always advised to read and make yourself accustomed to reading in English. It's advised especially for those who study in another language. For instance, many students study in their native language, and reading in English is not something ordinary for them. That's why it's always advised to read something interesting for you. Read something from your own sphere of interests, or read something like how to earn money, how to become famous, or some really interesting articles that will make you read and concentrate on article for 15 minutes and even more. And lastly, improve your concentration. Try to make yourself as much focused as possible because reading requires concentration. If you are frequently distracted by someone or something, you can't do a reading test quickly. Being concentrated for 1 hour on 3 passages is very important. That's why practice, and again practice a lot. Okay, dear friends, here are my 8 tips on how you can improve your reading score. Try to apply them because you can improve your reading score in this case. And please do not forget to subscribe to my channel because it will motivate me to prepare interesting and useful content for your IELTS preparation.